Welcome to the O'Collies Women's Basketball Postgame Podcast of the Cowgirls' win over UNT. I'm Noah Weber, and I'm joined by Sam Hutchens, Ben Hutchens, and Jacob Sturm. The Cowgirls won this game 82-68 behind a huge game from Natasha Mack, as she had 31 points. Guys, what were y'all's initial thoughts on this win?
I think it was certainly probably the best game of the season for Natasha Mack, and that's been saying something. We've seen some monster performances, but that really was the story of the game, especially in the first half when she did a ton of damage. I think she had 18 at the half or something like that, and she was really the Cowgirls' only source of offense, I thought, or consistent source of offense in that first half, because it was a close game at halftime. And as you looked, especially in the first quarter, UNT had the lead for a little bit, and then it was seesawing back and forth. So obviously the Cowgirls won pretty solidly, 14 points, and they gained possession of the game really in the second half. But yeah, I think the main engine of this game, at least in the first, second, and fourth quarters, was Natasha Mack for sure. Incredible performance.
I agree. I think that I think you said it spot on. I think this is definitely her best performance of the season. And you could even argue it might be her best performance as a Oklahoma State athlete, because, I mean, this was her career high in points, and that's saying something too. She's had a lot of extremely great games on both the rebounding and scoring. And tonight, scoring 31 points, that is a massive number, that almost halved the amount of points that North Texas finished with. So that just showed how dominant she was. And, I think even Coach kind of mentioned this when we talked to him. It's such a luxury for this team to have a player of Natasha Mack's caliber that you can get the ball to every single play. And it certainly looked like they utilized that to its fullest extent tonight.
Yeah, guys, I thought a word that defined the game for both teams really would be efficiency. The Cowgirls were 56% shooting from the field, whereas UNT, the Mean Green, was 2%. That's correct. So, the 50% mark, that's kind of an arbitrary number that people like to throw out there, but, it's usually pretty indicative of the games. Sam, I think there was a stat mentioned on the broadcast that OSU was something like, 52-8.
54-0 when scoring 80 points.
Yeah, 54-0 when scoring 80 points. And, the same kind of positive percentage lies in terms of scoring above 50% of the shots. And the Cowgirls did that, shot 56% from the field with going 2 of 9 from 3. So just kind of shows, minus those threes, the Cowgirls were really, really efficient from inside the paint.
Oh, yeah, they were. They dominated in the paint. If you look at their points in the paint stat, it was 46 points. And as we've talked about in other episodes of this podcast, some of the reasons the Cowgirls struggled, and I even touched on this in the Cowgirls' 2 losses, they shot extremely poorly from 3. But in this game, they showed that they necessarily don't have to shoot great from 3 when they have players such as Natasha Mack and Cassidy DeLapp down low. They combined for 42 points, and they dominated the paint. UNT had no answer for either one of them.
Yeah, that's another thing we can look at, glancing down this box score after the Cowgirls win to see how they won is, who was doing the damage. And Natasha Mack, 31, obviously she had a great game. But Cassidy DeLapp, she was getting hyped up by Coach Littell in postgame. Her second very good game that she's had in a row, coming off her another game where she didn't miss, I believe, against West Virginia. But she was 5 for 5 here in North Texas tonight, going 5 for 5 with 11 points. And she also had a free throw that she added 1 for 2 from the stripe. So, I think when we look at who was doing the damage, it was inside the paint is where the Cowgirls dominated. They had a big size advantage on North Texas, and it really got displayed tonight. It was good. It was nice.
It was nice. And even Cassidy, she could have even had 13 points. There was a questionable charge call that they had. She could have been in the teams tonight.
Hey, would it be safe to say that today was a Picasso masterpiece with all those points in the paint?
I think so too.
I like that word. I like that.
Come on, guys. I went with the paint joke. Definitely, a little bit more reception, maybe.
That's the type of line that might not make it in the story, so you got to throw it out in here for the most.
That's what I'm doing.
No, that was great. I've never heard that one, but I'm gonna start using that Picasso in the paint.
Noah, there's a reason you've never heard that one before.
Was that fresh off the dome?
It was.
Well, I think one other thing I want to kind of touch on before we get close this out is how great of a coaching year this is actually turning into being for Coach Littell. I've been extremely impressed with the way that he's utilized his entire bench. They've looked competitive no matter what 5 players are on the floor. I mean, this was a road game, and they look to be in command of this game at times. And I think that alone tells me that this team's ceiling is a lot higher than what I think a lot of us expected it to be coming into the year. And I think that's primarily because of how well they've been coached this season and how efficiently and effectively they've been utilized. And so I mean, you have to give Coach Littell a lot of credit. This is one heck of a coaching year so far.
Jacob, I think that's a great point you bring up. Like, look, I said, look at the box score again. Every player on the Cowgirls scored. Everyone had a bucket this game, and it really does feel like, not even this game, but over the course of the season, the bench has been utilized well, and the lineups have flowed and stuff, and it has been good. And it sounds like the way that the locker room is coming together around the Cowgirls, everyone seems to like it in here. It does just seem to be a fun team to be a part of, and I think that does circle back to the coaching. Coach Attell, also Coach Annan, like, they're doing a great job so far this young season. No one knows exactly what's going to come out of this season, and I think every team is going to make what they can out of this season, but it starts with coaching. And I think so far this season, we've been giving everyone else a lot of credit, but I think Coach Attell does deserve a great pat on the back for what he's done so far to start the year before Christmas.
Oh, he deserves a ton of credit.
I was also really impressed with how Micah Dennis played tonight as well. She had extended minutes tonight. I didn't expect her to even play a whole lot at all, more than I think probably 2 or 3 minutes. But she ended up playing a decent chunk of the game, and I didn't think she looked out of place. And I mean, that's just a testament to that. Go ahead, Noah. Sorry.
You're good. No, I was just going to talk about how well, this team is coached. Because, if you look at a coach and a team's relationship, a big part of it is just, do you like your coach? And these girls love this coach, and this coach loves these girls and his players. They are so close. This is such a close-knit group. When you're in the arena, this was my first game in the arena because, y'all have been able to attend the games at GIA, and I've been stuck in Texas. So, driving to Denton, 30 minutes, not too bad. You can tell how much these girls, how much they love their teammates and how much they love their coach. And this team, they were fired up. And UNT brought energy a little bit in the first half, and they kept it within striking distance. But once it got a little bit further in the game and into the second half, the Cowgirls really pulled away and kind of showed that this team is close-knit. And they're ready for conference play.
Yeah, no, I'm curious, before we wrap it up, how would you compare the atmosphere at, I forget the stadium name, you had it down, but how would you compare the atmosphere from tonight to what we see in Galgariba?
So this stadium, they call it the Super Pit, the Coliseum at the University of North Texas. So the atmosphere, it was a little empty tonight. There were a couple rowdy fans sitting over to my right that were yelling to keep Mac out of the paint, all this stuff. They were talking madness, but it was a great game. There was some energy, like those fans to my right. One of the guys, he yelled single-handedly the entire game. So, if we want to count that as energy, then yeah. But, overall, it was a great experience. It was a nice stadium, good hospitality. I really enjoyed it.
That's awesome.
Well, hey, I don't have any more crafty one-liners to sign us off with. So, Noah, you're going to have to think of something.
Okay, so thank you for listening to this post-game podcast from Sam Hutchens, Jacob Sturm, Noah Weber, and Mr. Picasso himself, Ben Hutchens. Thank y'all for listening, and we'll talk to y'all next time. Have a Merry Christmas.